we work in hospitality technology, which is not that sexy a topic at all. To give you an idea of the problem that we're trying to solve, or one of the core problems that we solve, who here has ever ordered something from Just Eat, Deliveroo, Uber Eats? Yeah. So when you hit send on your order from your phone, that doesn't just magically appear in the restaurant. It goes to a tablet from Just Eat that sits next to the till, and someone has to go, okay, there's an order, hit accept, copy that order out into the till, and there's a million other things going on around them. The kitchen might be on fire, they've got people shouting at them, whatever else. And then that introduces human error. It also causes delays, they might not be able to accept it, and you just get, hey, your order's cancelled. So the first thing that Flyt did was to build integrations that meant technology could plug straight into the till. Really boring bit of kit, and some of them are very archaic and difficult to deal with. But we've opened up the POS, point of sale unit. We built our own apps, we've helped other people build apps, and now what we do as we pivoted is to be a universal integration platform. So we open up a POS to just use APIs, and then, hey, you can build whatever you want to deal with the POS. So yeah, that's Flyt. The topic I was asked to speak about is problem to vision, and that covers these areas you can see. So qualifying the problem space, personas and user journeys, jobs to be done, and design sprints. I'm going to frame all of this within how we sprint right now. I say that with a caveat that this is absolutely not me dictating this is a perfect model. It's definitely not perfect. I'm going to finish on talking about why it's not perfect. So at the end, I'd love to hear how anyone else has been having successful sprints, just as importantly, how you've been having bad sprints, and what your thoughts are on what we're doing right now. Cool. So problem to vision is the title, but we look at problem to vision in 1 week. So the context of our sprints are a week long. We call them research weeks. We look to integrate better with development by supporting them with speed. So a common problem of integrating UX is that, yeah, UX is great, it seems to make sense, but I want to get products out. You're in the way of my release cycle, you're a delay. We're a barrier to products being made. And if someone's not used to that, then you're going to get a lot of pushback. We want to minimize lag from insights to scope. So when I'm creating insights, we don't want that to sit anywhere. We want that to be straight into an evolved scope that can sit with developers, that can actually be worked on. And something I'll come back to at the end is that we always try to keep research fresh. I think that's something that you'll probably hear from people in different ways, but yeah, we don't want research to go stale. So this is the classic sprint model. Who here works in a sprint format at the moment? Cool, so you're probably quite familiar with this, even if you don't know where it came from. It was Google Ventures model that created the sprint, and it ran through these stages, and it took the loop away from expensive build time and risky launch time, and just closed the loop from ideas to learning. The biggest problem with that is that at the same time, they also just cut the developers out. So developers were waiting to build and launch, and the loop just cut them away. Common problems with them are that there's a long planning process, which holds things up. Teams still remain siloed, and you can still result in an over-the-wall brief. It's a term I quite like, but it's basically you can run the best sprint possible, but if you're not involving the right people at the right time, then you're like, hey, pat on the back, we did an amazing sprint, and there's your brief. And it still lands with the developers who have no idea what you've done, why we're doing it this way. The context is completely lost. So we try to sprint faster. It still takes a week, so it's not really faster, which is why I think I need to iterate on my titles. But we try to cover more ground in 1 week. We're a startup of 30, 40 people, so for us, we can kind of adapt our processes and play around with things. But we want to cover a problem as sort of to a deeper level inside of a week. And that took us away from the traditional Google Ventures sprint model. That took a little bit too much time. It dealt with it in 1 week chunks and really assumes that you're going to be doing several 1 week chunks. We try to keep it to 1 2 week chunks to have something that's usable so that we can get that to developers as quickly as possible, so that we're not holding things up and we're not seen as a bottleneck in the overall process. So to do that, stepping away from, hey, Monday's going to be our kickoff and planning session, we do that Friday afternoon, probably with a beer in our hands, which makes the planning a little bit interesting. But that's when we'll scope out the problem. So we want to understand where that brief's come from, why it's a problem, are we actually looking at solving the right problem and getting our planning done, which involves whiteboards, Sharpies, and Post-it notes as some of the best tools. Monday, we like to use something I really enjoy doing is Ask the Expert interviews. So internally, we have a lot of people who are really good at their jobs. And we have people in data science, development, people who've built companies, run companies, people who know our customers better than we do. They're running our support desk. They have more contact than I ever will. So whatever the problem is, I want to grab the person who's the expert in the room. We don't have to go and find them. We've already got people right in front of us who are really, really useful. It's also a great way of sneakily getting sort of key stakeholder buy-in. Our CTO is also one of our co-founders, so grabbing him for a bit of a technical point of view in a problem really kind of cements that you are going to be heading in the right direction with the project and that you've got the backing of your top level. Then we build out user journeys from there. It's a nice shot of a spreadsheet. It's actually one of the best tools I've found for doing user journeys. I've faffed around with loads of online whiteboarding tools and collaboration tools, and they were really difficult, really clunky, and then I was sat in front of a spreadsheet and went, oh god. Google Sheets, you can collaborate with it, you can have multiple tabs to do different iterations, it's free, it's awesome. So now I'm back in love with Excel and spreadsheets in general. Tuesday we move on to jobs, pains, gains, crazy eights, and a lo-fi prototype. Jobs, pains, and gains, the J is jobs to be done, so we still use jobs to be done, which I really think is very, very valuable. This method of jobs, pains, and gains, I think, is a really great way of clarifying your thinking around what you're about to sort of embark on. So you run through your jobs to be done, you've identified your customers, you find out what they're hiring your product for, what are they there to do. The example of the drill, the customer actually just wants a hole in the wall, is a perfect one. But then we look at the pains. So what's actually painful about completing that job? Is it time consuming? Is it difficult? Is it the thing that they hate most in their week? And we look at what makes it hard to complete that job. Then we move through to gains. So what are the game creators? Where are we already providing gains? Okay, so we know it's painful and it takes a lot of time. We've already got something that kind of helps with that. We're sort of soothing the pain a little bit. But what are the other game creators? What else could we be doing that's going to make this better for them? What ones should we build? What ones could we build? What ones could happen, but there's no way we're going to build? Or it might be that solutions already exist. So I think that jobs, pains, and gains, if anyone's ever sort of not touched on it before, is really, really useful and could be worth sort of throwing into a sprint, playing around with. Crazy eights for kind of rapid idea exploration and just progressing through concepts very, very rapidly. It keeps us fast. And then a lo-fi prototype. So that might be Post-it notes and a sheet of paper, or it might be some interesting wireframes, which I'm about to show you, in Sketch and thrown into Marvel just to quickly work out like, hey, we thought we were heading down the right track, but we forgot to put a home button in, so I don't want to put this in front of users yet. There you go, cardinal sin of Comic Sans. You can groan at me. We use Comic Sans and real cheap, dirty wireframes in this level so that, one, it doesn't look real because no one thinks you're going to build something with Comic Sans, which is great. But it also means it doesn't have to be pixel perfect. I can put it in front of customers quite quickly and we can play around with it. I don't have to worry about everything lining up because I might be doing an iteration in half an hour. And that gets us to prototype version 2, which might look something like this and be clickable and actually let them play around. Internal test is sort of our first benchmark. So again, we've got a lot of experts in the room. A big project that we've been working on at the moment, it's taken a couple of sprints, has been our own new developer portal, which doesn't exist yet. We've never had something like that. But I've got 25 developers around me. So they're not necessarily the end user or the complete picture, but they are developers. They have used developer portals. They know the pains of building stuff. I've got all of them around me. That's a brilliant resource. So I grabbed a developer from every team so that I'm not crippling their own flows. Stole sort of 25 minutes off of each of them, ran through internal testing, and they go, yeah, okay, now you've explained it. I get what you're talking about, but I don't talk about it in this language, or that's just the wrong word. which is brilliant. I want to get those kind of problems out of the way as quickly as possible, because when I go for external testing, we've gone through all that effort of finding someone, dragging them into the office and speaking to them. I don't want them to go, oh, that button doesn't make sense. And then I get nothing else from them because they're just focused on this button not working. So internal tests, really, really, really useful. You can buy someone lunch, buy them a coffee if they're really busy. Get them to kind of just ground you and check your work before you rush head on. Then we look at external tests. So another caveat of that is getting your external tests in earlier in the week means you've got to book them in earlier. We've been building up a sort of beta testers program with, basically I trick anyone that comes in and is willing to give me time and just say, hey, do you want updates on this? Is it right to contact you again and get you to come back and keep sending you stuff? And they go, oh yeah, that sounds nice and it's cool, and you're mine forever now. So yeah, run a beta user program. It's a great little lie. But it means that you've got to be booking these guys in early. Inevitably, some of them are going to spill over into Friday because they're like, hey, yeah, sorry, busy now. But we try and keep that tight to Thursday. Where we try and sprint faster with this is iterating on the fly. So we don't want to commit wholesale to changes just because one person says something's not quite right for them. But if the first one has a complete shutdown, then okay, cool. I'm going to tweak that in the half an hour gap before my next interview and basically A/B test it and start to try and see throughout the day. If that change never comes up again, then I think we're probably on the right track. So you started with version 2, but by the end of the day, you're on kind of version 2.5, 2.6, and you're already covering a lot of ground. You've already tested out minor tweaks to things, you've tested out different wording, you've seen if someone's eye gets drawn to that again, or if they're actually now just talking about the flow, which can be super, super useful. So that's where we kind of try and cover a bit more ground inside of the week and explore a problem to death, so that we can finish that week with some confident areas to explore. And then Friday morning, we consolidate all of our findings and put that into something where it's digestible, it's referenceable, so that we can go back to it, we know what we're looking at. We have a mega screen, which is 6 screens stitched together. Even people working remotely will then dial in, so the whole company is there in some form. And we present our findings. We have an open forum. So every team will have a representative talk about what they've done with their week. But any developer in the company and a developer who's not even going to touch the build of this product, or someone who I've not grabbed for time during that process, gets a chance to give me feedback, give me criticisms, and have that open forum. So we discuss ideas. And that's anyone from someone working on customer success, someone who's our data scientist or the founder of the business, our CEO, can say, yeah, that's great, but I just spoke to Nando's and that won't work for them. I didn't do my job quite right. So now there's another area, another pocket of knowledge that I need to mine. And that keeps us grounded, it keeps us focused on the right thing and make sure that we haven't really messed up or missed anything important. I think, and Roy talked about something similar, but when you're trying to move really fast, if you go wrong, you're going to really go wrong very quickly. So we have to kind of have these points where we touch back to make sure that we haven't veered off and just gone mental really, really fast. So things that can help you kind of sprint faster and keep things on track as well. Documenting publicly and continuously. So in the same way that your sprint's broken down day by day by day, we use Notion, if anyone's ever used Notion. I'm not trying to sell you on Notion, I don't represent them, but it's a really great product for us. It's like a public internal wiki for the company, so everything's documented in different ways, but all in the same place. So anyone in the business at any point in the week can jump in and see where I'm up to, what the findings are, and what we're talking about, which keeps us accountable, I guess. And it also means that it's easy to digest when we go back. We can see, hey, we started with this idea, but then we had to give up on it. Why did we do that? Why did we end up with this solution again? It's because we made this progress, and that's where we ended up to. Seeking out feedback continuously internally keeps us on our toes, but it also means that we're going to slip up less often. And setting realistic goals. We want to sprint fast, but that doesn't mean, hey, let's try and do absolutely everything on the earth, everything associated with this problem inside of a week. We want to do it really down to the minute level as far as we can go inside that week, so that that problem is basically ticked off and we move on to the next thing without worrying about it recurring. So make sure it's broken down into a small enough card. Don't look at it as like, hey, we've got to build a developer portal. Let's do it in a week. It's a great goal, but you're still going to have a lot of blank spaces at the end of that. Something I mentioned at the start, I want to come back to, keeping research fresh, and I think this is really important in how we serve our development teams in delivering stuff to them as quickly as we can, but also delivering something quality to them. So there's always going to be internal prioritization of projects. A question that we're starting to ask more and more is, yeah, that's great, someone's come to us with a problem, we're going to work on this. When can it get built? And that's about when your backlog's in the way, or teams are already running OKRs, or they're just flat out. So we will prioritize projects that can get built sooner, so that it's not sitting on a stack getting stale. I don't want my research to be more than a couple of weeks old at max if no one's going to touch it. If it's like, yeah, the team's going to build that in about 2-3 months, like cool, I'm going to have lost all context myself, and I did it. They're definitely not going to have the full context. We're going to be sort of second guessing, we're going to be filling in the blanks and almost making things up as we go as we're explaining it, because it's too old now. And I don't want to go to the wall fighting for a feature or fighting for a way of doing things to say, yeah, no, our customers definitely said this, when it's like a million miles away and I can't even remember anymore. I want to be doing that as freshly as possible. So we do say no. Saying no is awesome. It's scary, but it's good, especially when it's your boss. Just say no to research. Just say, no, we'll put a pin in that. That's great. We'll explore maybe the groundwork, but we're not going to commit wholeheartedly to that, because it's going to go really, really quickly and then go over there, and no one's going to touch it. And something that I think is quite important is I see my role internally as being a UX consultant. So I consult anyone in the business on any of my work. I own it for its entire life. If someone says, yeah, we're going to start working on the developer portal, cool, that's my baby, don't mess it up. So I'll sit in their planning meetings, I'll join them whenever I'm needed. They can pull on me to come and give them an hour, 2 hours, a whole day, whatever we need to do, so that the context is still understood and that we're working in partnership, rather than that over-the-wall brief. You're not always going to be able to involve everyone who needs to be right at the start or throughout the process, but I think this is a nice way of kind of nurturing it and making sure that you're not like, yeah, research done, shove it away, and I'm working on something else, and someone's going to pick it up and it'll just get built. I think that's a really bad route to take, but being a consultant, I think whatever your role is to say, okay, I've been involved with this, and now I'm going to track it and stay with it, and developer says to you, actually, we've done the exploration, we can't build it in this way anymore, that's going to change how this works, then cool, I'm still sort of acting as the voice of the customer, I'm still trying to represent our users to make sure that any compromises are still valid. So we're still iterating this process, it's still evolving. It's definitely not perfect. Working on the developer portal with this process worked brilliantly for us. I think we had some amazing sprints with it, and I was like, cool, this is like the sprint people want to have. It worked really, really well for us, but it doesn't always work. You're not going to be able to just sit here and go, cool, I just tick these boxes and then research is done, I've got some awesome products out. Time to adopt is always a thing. I'm lucky enough to work in a company where UX is pretty well understood and pretty well adopted. I keep overhearing developers that work near me sort of say, no, we can't make that change. That's a really bad user experience. I'm like, bless. I can quit now. But that's amazing to have. But when you're changing your processes and trying to introduce something new, you're always going to have a struggle with that being adopted and embedded. We are agile, so the teams own their own processes. They're evolving in their own way, and each team's got its own quirks and its own ways of doing things. So when we're pulling them in or we're working collaboratively with them, we need to make sure that we're keeping up with them. So we're going to be changing, but I don't want to go away, come back and be like, the perfect UX process that exists. And they go, yeah, cool, we're different now, it doesn't work. So it's kind of a never-ending cycle of iterating who we are and what we do. So yeah, that's it.